subject. Yeah, we've been reading in the papers about safety issues, a lot of fatalities and electric fences, which is giving it a bad name. So I thought this is the right opportunity and the right forum to address people who are interested in this matter of conserving wildlife and coexisting with wildlife while we do agriculture and things like that. So the screen you see here, it's a actual shot of this thing close to Coimbatore. The structures on the left-hand side, what you see, the Isha Yoga Center this, across the stream on the other side. And this place has got quite a few elephants in this place, and you can see the foothills of the mountains. So the conflict we have here is huge. So we have all the animal species around Coimbatore because it's like a horseshoe of mountains. We have a lot of animals here. So, we have an opportunity also with experimenting with different animals and coming up with proven solutions. So I'll take you from here on to the subject of this. Can I have the next slide, please? Yeah. So sustaining agriculture, this is the biggest thing today. A lot of people are quitting agriculture maybe in the rural areas. So we need to have some proven farm technologies which are critical to ensure productivity. Agriculture has to be sustainable to retain the next generation farmers in the field. This is something which we all have to look at as if we have food on the table. The Indian farmer needs reliable, safe and durable farm equipment. Safe is something which is an underwritten thing. We'll have to talk about that. Avoiding crop loss to animals and to theft contributes to farm productivity, no doubt. Reliable solar fences serve as a tool in remote management of farms. I'll come to that. Agriculture would be truly rewarding if farmers, get bank loans and banks endorse quality. They are the only people who can enforce quality today, not the forest department or whatever. Agriculture division is backed by 25 years of field experience, so we'll bring you some proven solutions from that. Can I have the next slide, please? Yeah, in agriculture, fencing is the primary infrastructure. NABARD has declared that to protect the crops and the inputs. And in India, we have a lot of people living in the fringe of forest areas, so we need to have some reliable and safe electric fences. So the provisions of Wildlife Act are quite stringent, and only the farmers are responsible in the court of law. So we cannot, ignore safety and do something for the sake of thing and suffer on that issue. And institutional fencing for proven solar fences can ensure farm security, because banks are going to be very careful when they lend to the farmers from the point of view of the security of the farmer. Because the farmer gets into trouble, the bank gets into trouble. So we feel that banks have to come forward to fund this vital infrastructure. So next slide, please. Safety of electric fence in India remains a grey area for want of guidelines. There's no basic guidelines to farmers available to date. And the Indian Electricity Rules 1956 makes it very clear that you can operate an electric fence provided the energizer carries safety certification. So safety certification means that it has to be from BIS. So if you buy an iron box or anything from with a BIS marking or ISI marking, at the back of it, you'll find a serial number also, which means it is made under standardized manufacturing procedures with random testing. So that's absolutely safe for the consumer's point of view, the legal point of view, and from safety point of view. Now, BIS, though they have endorsed this international standards in 1999, they have not endorsed any energizer manufacturer in India so far. So we have to rely on some international safety certification for our own safety. Crude, powerful energizers are available in the market, which with a lot of fraudulent markings of saying conforms to BIS, conforms to IEC and all that stuff. But farmers have to be very careful, because there's no legal recourse when you go and do something believing that it is a genuinely safety certified equipment and get no trouble with the law. Farmers can be harassed on grounds of safety as accountability rests entirely with the manufacturer if you go in for a safety certified equipment. Otherwise, you're out there, exposed. And zero fatality equipment we bring from Horizon to Germany protects the interests of Indian farmers and wildlife. This is a 6th-generation energizer, it's quite reliable, very hardy. And we've been using this from 2007. And banks definitely will endorse safety and durability of solar fences, as both these aspects, like I said earlier, affects the repayment schedule of the farmers as such. Can I next slide, please? We're talking of green technology, meaning solar fences. We don't use AC at all anywhere in the thing to complete safety. The grid voltage in the rural areas in India it's prone to fluctuations, so we don't rely on AC for charging even the battery, because there could be a lot of fluctuations. You see, like when you have a thunderstorm, you find a lot of TVs bursting, connected to the your cable TV, cable, for example. Yeah, this being naked wires, it's like an antenna, and you can have a lot of problems. So when we assume that in electric fencing, what makes it safe? You can't assume that solar charging makes an electric fence safe, or using a battery alone makes an electric fence safe, unless Energize is certified. And the cycle of safety only is completed when you use a solar panel to charge a battery, which has got safety certified, to just complete the cycle of safety. So we use solar power packs customized depending on the terrain, on the site conditions, the climatic conditions, and things we plan between a week and 10 days back up in the battery, looking for kind of monsoon weather. There's no sunlight for in 1 week or 10 days, depending on the location. Abuse maintenance-free batteries in solar fences, which are average life of 5 years. Earlier, you used to pour water and maintain it, and there's a human error involved in that. That has been eliminated now. We used the German energizers, our 6th-generation energizers, which got some adaptive power technology, which will burn up the weeds in contact with the fence. So to a certain extent, it helps. It cannot be totally dependent on that. To a certain extent, it helps cut down the vegetation. And the ideal fencing solution for organic farming today, because this saves labor, eliminates the need for weedicides, which is a big input today in the farming sector. Can I have next slide, please? Yeah, this is okay, fine. Yeah, we have this success story from the World Bank. We qualified for direct contracting in Nepal in 2015, and we were single source for a technology called the offset fence, which is basically an evolved fence which is developed only for elephant control, dedicated control of elephants. Yeah, it works. Any solution will work for a while, and then the elephants will adapt, and you have to keep adapting. There's a way to ding dong battle. So in this situation, it was basically on the border of the Indian border with West Bengal, this Siliguri district. There's a Mechi River running across, and the 2 harvest seasons in Nepal for maize and paddy would see more than 200-300 elephants coming in herds from Northeast India. They'll raid the paddy fields and get back to the Indian side at the daytime, come back at night. So it was basically causing a lot of hardship and 40% crop damage, a lot of about 10 lives lost every season. So then the World Bank team, they identified us because we'd done some earlier work in Bhutan for the Bhutan government, and they felt it was working, so they identified us, and they visited NTNC, and we got the order. And what we did here was supply training, because sitting here in South India, we are supplying something in Nepal, and the elephants every day they attack the fence. Every day something has to be done. So we had to do training of the community. So the community now fixes the fence every time they have some need. They call us on the mobile phone, the video. We're able to solve the problems out. So that's quite a successful thing we do in Nepal, not in India for some reason. We do it in the private sector in India. Yeah, it works. We got including the Isha Yoga Center has been fenced from 2009 It's working well there. So many places it's working well. Can I have next slide, please? Site-specific design, yes. Electric fences are basically pre-tension. So we need to have load-bearing posts at the corners and changes of bends, change of slope. And they basically, with the terrain, we have to level it out, and then from point to point, you have to pre-tension it. So the bill of quantities depends on the number of load posts in a particular fence, the terrain, which is designed by terrain, of course, and the length of the fence. The longer the fence, it becomes cheaper because it's the same unit and things like that, which amortizes well. And posts are grouted with in situ soil, avoiding concrete and reducing the logistics. There are quite a few reasons why we avoid concrete. I'll come to that, or if you have anything, you can get back with me on that. Civil work is left to the farmer's scope, and the rest of it, fence line preparation, we guide them on how to do it, and they go forward with that. Mulch sheet underlay is what we suggest as a long-term vegetation control measure. About a meter wide mulch sheet of about 250 microns is laid, and 50 mm of soil is spread on top of it so that there's no UV degradation of the sheet. Works well for 5 to 10 years, provided you don't expose the mulch sheet to sunlight. Once in a while, whether there's rain or erosion, you please take steps to cover it. But it works well, so it cuts out the need for weedicides. Yeah. Can I have the next one, please? Site-specific design, yeah, coming back to that, electric fence is more of a psychological barrier to conditioned animals. And the knowledge of the adaptive behavior of animals can yield reasonable results. You cannot expect electric fence to give you 100% control of elephant or any species for that matter. Maybe you take it with 90%, 95%, 98%, whatever. Give it a 2% chance for it also to survive and coexist. Domestic and wild animals get conditioned to respect the fence after the first contact. So all the animals in that habitat have to come into contact with the fence to get respect. And wild boar, gaur, and nilgai are crushing animals, high impact animals. So they need some rugged design. And the post spacing varies from 4 meters to 20 meters. 4 meters we use for wild boar because they're crashing animals, and 20 meters you employ for elephants because elephants attack posts. So best thing to do is reduce the number of posts per kilometer, the vulnerable posts as such. And the spacing of wires depends on the width of the chest to the back of the animal. If it is 6 inches or 8 inches or 10 inches, you bring it, make sure it's tight so that you force the animal to contact 2 lines, which is opposite polarity. So you get a shock, and then you don't allow it easy access, let it squeeze through. So it takes some time by the time the pulse comes. Right? It's very important because if you have a fence which has got loose lines, the animal will exit and the pulse comes 1.2 seconds. It may or may not contact. Yeah. Proven designs for all terrestrial species. It's okay. You'll come to this. No, you go on to the next. No, go back. No, next slide. You can go on to it. No problem. Next slide, please. Yeah. Yeah, fine. We have got a lot of experience now, 24, 26 years now, depending on the requirement of clients. We have some people who say we want to have snake-proof our place, around our place. There's no snake should come through. Yes, we can stop a small snake to the simple techniques we do. We also have fences for rat control at Aviagen and Highline. Their mother nurse is poultry sheds around here, these parts. And what you see here is a lush fodder farm, which is somewhere close to Isha, and it's basically for a goshala. So there's a lot of fodder growing there in elephant country. They walk past the fence, they don't bother about it. Initially, 1-2 times they tried, then they get a crack and then they respect. Multi-species fence can be designed for animal and human control because we're talking of farm security here. They don't want people to come in also. So we give alarms and SMS alerts and things. So that gives you some kind of sense of security. We have done about 9 TNU field stations in the past 2 years, and the oldest one being about 20 years. And this basically we're trying to bring in these new technologies into TNU, so the farmers and other officials who visit there, they'll have something like a technology demonstrator. You can see for your time what it is. Can I have next slide, please? Institutional funding for solar fences. Yes, this is something which is lax at the moment. Small farmers do not have the means. They often rely on crude electric fences and get into trouble. And the client farmers are the banks with clear title deeds who have availed loans for solar fence on 5-year terms. They are lucky. And repayment has been enabled in 2 to 3 years in some cases because they're doing some intercropping. Let me come back to the first point. Small farmers who do not have the means often rely on crude electric fences. Crude electric fences can be anything. A single wire, even switched on to an AC main is an electric fence, a crude electric fence. So it all depends on how you do it. The new types of crude fences which are coming into the landscape today is these hanging fences, which I think is very detrimental for elephant control because it hits the elephant on the head and it irritates the elephant, makes them very aggressive. So I'm against that point. There are so many other ways of controlling the elephant. You don't need a big 12-bolt to swat a fly. That's it. And from 2007, Fenzgard has earned its stripes as a distinct brand associated with innovation and reliability because there are a lot of loss of faith has happened with this technology over the years. Some places they win, some places they lose. So we need to have something as good technology which will give you some standardized results. It has been the long neglected primary infrastructure in agriculture, and not even 1% of the plan outlay goes for fencing today as compared to 15-20% or more for drip irrigation and stuff like that. I think this has to change. Can I have next slide, please? Community fences for small and marginal farmers. We are coming to this because a large farmer can afford a fence from his pocket, or maybe he can go to the bank, he does KYC, okay, and he can get it. The small farmer, he goes to the bank and they ask him for 101 papers, and they ask him for give me some collateral security, which is, this is quite irritating. So the state subsidies, some states have been giving subsidies to farmers, but it seldom reaches the needy small farmers because somebody else is countering it, one. And secondly, subsidies, there is also some compromises on quality coming there. So small farmers, they seldom get even that. So community fences can help a small farmer. So if small farmers and marginal farmers, they get together, form a self-help group, and then they go to a bank and give 20% margin money, and they can avail a loan 80%, and they can do well. So it doesn't mean to say that only a rich man can I can afford to buy a Fenzgard today. Anybody with a little credibility in the bank can get a loan and buy a car, so you can have the best quality fence without any compromise. And 20% margin money is normally paid, which bestowers some collective ownership on all the stakeholders there to maintain these fences. That's very important. And probably we could tap in some CSR funds also to help needy SHGs who are finding it difficult to come up with the 20% margin money. Because a lot of small marginal farmers, there are so many people in the rural landscape who got half-acre, 1-acre land, and they cannot do separate fences there. So collectively, 10 or 20 people get together, 10 or 20 acres done together, it is workable. Because we have a proven track record on community fences in the World Bank. So I think we can apply this in India, and it is something which we can do as a collective initiative to increase not only rural employment, but also retaining the farmers in the field and contributing to agriculture productivity. The next slide, please. Horticulture, yes, this is some field which is something I have been, it's a pet project of mine. See, in horticulture, the biggest problem today is that you have to wait for a few years for your crop to come to bear. So in the meanwhile, it's only outflow of money in the first 4 years or whatever. So if you have a good fence and if you can intercrop with horticulture, then you get some interim returns, which is something, a 100-day crop like a pumpkin. Today, a lot of farmers have seen, no point putting a pumpkin because the wild boar will take it, or the elephant will take it. things like that. Well, if you have a good fence, you take a risk, you take a chance and say, okay, let's go. Maybe the elephant will take a few, but the rest of it is yours. So you need to do something like that, innovative, to get some returns. And moreover, also in my experience with horticulture over the years, seeing so many farmers, some of them, especially in dryland areas, have benefited from using this thing as a pumpkin as a ground cover. So what happens is when you plant the trees and then you're pouring water for the trees, and then evaporation losses there. All these things can be sort of kind of controlled if you can put a ground cover on that. So these things like whether it's a 100-day crop, well, in the summer season it works very well because at least the trees bounce back. So these are kind of things which a fence can enable a farmer to do. So there are diligent farmers who recover the fence costs in 2-3 years or in a single season. Agrifenz is indispensable in horticulture as it prevents loss of a matured crop, particularly. When the crop is matured is when you have a problem with be it animals or with humans. So that's the thing. And agriculture also, Agrifenz enjoys a 10-year replacement warranty against defective manufacture. We've been in the field long enough to offer a 10-year warranty. Warranty, 3 years for the energizer, which is imported from Germany, it's international warranty. The rest of it was made here in India. Well, 98% of it is made in India. We give you a 10-year warranty. Then 20 years plus life in the fence. Can I have the next slide, please? Scope for professional electric fences. Yeah, hundreds of unregulated electric fences enter service every day all over India. There's no regulation. Everybody calls it in North India, you call it Zatka machine. Every radio shop is putting out their own stuff. What they make, they know it gives you a pulse, how much pulse it gives you, what's energy. They have no clue. There's no way of measuring the energy. You can measure the voltage, maybe not the energy. So you should be very careful that farmers are not misled by online vendors who promise the earth and say it's tested here, tested there, unless you won't see where they've done. Because eventually you're compromising on safety and quality. There are two sides we lose there. So professional fences can serve as a farm management tool with zone intelligence. Yes, we can give you, depending on the large farm, instead of a single unit, we can put multiple units and make it zones, and we give you an SMS alerts to go to 5 mobile phones. So you know exactly when somebody switches out the fence, or there's a shot on the fence, somebody puts on the fence, all that information comes to you. So you can do some remote farm management of that. Agrifenz is an active, affordable barrier versus the passive, compared to chain link fences. 2-meter chain link fence and a 2-meter Agrifenz, definitely this is cheaper. Sorry, and there's more flexibility in operations. The planned outlay for agriculture in the priority sector is massive, but every district has got so much of funding, but it is seldom used. Like I said, less than 1%. So I think the government can move on that. Global markets for agriculture fences are there. Definitely, a lot of people are looking at our success stories and approaching us. And every nation has growing responsibilities on for sustaining food security. And conservation efforts in 72 has led to the increase in wildlife populations competing. For example, I know from 72 the elephant population has risen 3-fold, and the land is same quantity of land available, or maybe shrinking because everybody competing with humans. So with increasing populations of both wildlife, of course, it's inevitable. We're going to have a lot of cooperators more. And tolerance or sympathy cannot address increasing man-animal conflicts without safe mitigation mechanisms. I'm talking about safe mitigation mechanisms because I'm again underscoring the point to say these fences are crude fences. They do not know how much voltage goes through it, how much power is going through that, and invariably it's plugged on to the AC mains. And you don't know. I know I've seen some local fences running up. See, maximum allowed is 10,000 volts or under 10,000 volts. But I've seen some running at 20,000 volts plus. So you can imagine what it does to an elephant. Anyway, so Fenzgard can deliver on proven solar fencing solutions for a range of wild animal species. You name it, for any terrestrial species, we can give you some proven control solutions. Yeah. Next, please. Distressed farmers. This is something which we have also been talking to some banks. With farming turning unviable with every passing day, farmers need support to sustain in agriculture. The farmers were given up saying like, I tried, I took a loan, I burned my fingers, nothing else to do, let me sell out. So the sell out, where's the farmer going to go? He's going to go somewhere, as a migrant labor. You should avoid that. The farming operation leaves many farmers distressed, often the receiving end of nature also. And distressed farmers could be enabled to recover with crop protection afforded by Fenzgard. And incidents of NPA in farm advances are high, often leaving banks and farmers helpless. This is where we thinking banks could be urged to explore one final, because anyway they got their documents pledged there. So it's a question of the bank taking a call to say, okay, this guy is a genuine guy, maybe he got a proper fence, maybe he'll come around, he'll turn around. So that's something that the bank can look at, because it's a win-win for the bank and for the farmer. This is something which we could check out with the banks also. I've been talking to a lot of banks about this, but I think more than me talking to the banks, people, farmers, active farmers, they should also approach the banks and talk to the banks and ask them not to see. The SARFAESI Act is a big thing which is against this whole kind of bank funding, because banks are hesitant to fund a farmer based on only his farm document. They always ask for a supplementary kind of securities, collateral securities. That's not there in a farmer. Every farmer does not have properties to give out a thing. So banks should take the risk, and they have to do it, but it's something which we have to talk to the government and get things done. Can I next slide, please? Yeah, so we have based in Coimbatore, and we have a big factory here. We make a lot of stuff, and things go from here for different applications. And you can reach me on any of these landline numbers or the mobile phone numbers that are listed in my name. So you can call me anytime. And I'll leave you here and wait for some questions that you may have on the subject, on any of the subjects.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you for a wonderful presentation. I will take up the questions from the participants now.
Yeah, thanks.
The first question is, which is the best fencing for agricultural land?
Best fencing, it all depends on what you call the best fencing. If you're looking at agricultural land without any problem with wild animals, then maybe you can go for chain link or something which will, prevent animals like domestic animals from coming in, like sheep or goats or something. Chain link fence is okay. It's expensive though, but it's something that will give you 10-15 years life, no doubt. That is there. And then if you're looking at the barbed wire fences, of course, barbed wire in certain places, certain countries is banned because it kind of damages the skin of the animals. They get infected, the wild animals particularly. And so barbed wire fence, I won't talk about it only. Let's talk between chain link and electric fence. You look at it, electric fence, if you do a good electric fence from a proven supplier and with the warranties and kind of things that, well, this is an active barrier. The chain link is a passive barrier. A chain link does not give you an alarm or any alert. You do not have any intelligence on what happened to the fence. Whereas for farm security, an electric fence armed with alarms, SMS alerts, definitely is a better bet.
Okay.
Hope that answered you.
Okay. What are the points to keep in mind while selecting agriculture fencing?
Yeah, it is basically it is related to the need of the farmer. What does he need electric fencing for? What does he need agriculture fencing for? So that need has to be addressed. If there are a lot of farmers who say, okay, I just need to control only animals, fine. That's for this moment. And then down the line, when you control animals, then you have a yield in a crop, then say, I need to control humans. So then what happens is you have to increase the height of the fence. So you have to, anticipate what you need. And instead of going for a 1 meter fence to control a wild boar, 1.5 meters, control wild boar and cattle and stuff, you could even think of a 2 meter fence, so that it makes it a little more difficult for somebody to climb. You look at it futuristic, because I'm giving you 20 years life for my fence, for example. Okay, in 20 years, there should be an upgrade option where you should be able to upgrade your system and things like that. So definitely, if you have a system which is upgradable, it is advantages, because down the line, your goalpost might change, in life, in agriculture. So to accommodate that, definitely solar has got a lot of advantages and flexibilities there.
Okay.
I hope that answers.
Okay. I'll move on to the next question, sir. What is the durability of the fencing, like solar panel, barbed wire, etc.?
Okay. No, let me just check. Barbed wire is a separate entity, right? Barbed wire, we'll take it as a crude local fence, which has got about, maybe depending on the make, depending on the kind of coating you can have with barbed wire, depending if you go to the market, so many price ranges. So you pay for quality, maybe a barbed wire lasts you for 10 years, 15 years. But then it's got limited purpose in agriculture, because in agriculture, barbed wire, if you want to keep out, for example, sheep or wild boar, you need to place it very close. You have to have verticals. So you need to have a strong network there. That increases the price of the whole product one. So if you go for, agriculture per se, as a chain link, definitely I told you, it is good because it'll control a whole lot of species, except some high impact animals like nilgai or bison or elephant. It controls the rest of it. So you have to, it all depends on what is the problem that you have. What is the problem that you anticipate? Where your farm is located. If it's on the hills and things like that, I think it's better to go in for something more proactive, which is upgradable, like I said earlier.
Okay.
Life, you're talking about life. Yeah, I'm sorry, I missed the point. Yeah, life of the barbed wire is that chain link also can take you to 10 to 15 years maybe. And electric fences, depending on where you buy it from, it can last from 6 months to 20 years.
What about the solar panels, sir? What about the durability?
Solar panels, yeah, normally nothing can go in a solar panel, nothing go wrong in a solar panel, except the efficiency will drop depending on the make, where you get it from, whether it's Chinese thing, model, efficiency will drop over time. But then, since there's no working parts or anything in that, and if a normal solar panel should last you 20 years plus, shouldn't be a problem.
Okay. For the pillars of the fences, what material is best? Granite, steel, concrete?
If you're talking of electric fences, I would say steel is best because it's got some flexibility thing. Granite and concrete makes a fence rigid. One. If you go for granite, maybe granite posts are not too tall, but concrete posts definitely you can make it to size 2 meters or plus, whatever. But if you go in for a concrete post, it is top heavy. Once it's top heavy, you need to grout it with concrete to make sure that it doesn't lean over. So the cost involved in using concrete posts is very high. And with stone posts, definitely you don't get stone posts these days, the quality like you get those days. That also can be used, but then the stone posts and concrete posts, both of them are top heavy, and they do require some kind of proper grouting, but they are a misfit when they are talking of high impact animals like bison or elephants or nilgai. These things will break at the base. So for that matter, it is better to go in for a steel post, but at least it will flex, it will bend over, but you can reuse it. Reusability is there.
Okay, I'll move on to the next question, sir. Can you please tell us what would be the approximate cost of solar fencing for 1 acre of land?
Yeah, this is this is a proverbial 1 acre land. This 1 acre land can be any shape. It could be long, linear, like a loaf of bread, or it could be rectangular, or even a square. Assuming that you have a flat land, 1 acre, it is one calculation. Assuming that 1 acre is on the hills, it's a different calculation. Because on the plains, you have 4 corners and then a gate. So maybe the center, then you have 6 load-bearing posts, period. But if you go in for the hills, depending on the undulations, the slope, changes slope, you need to have more load-bearing posts. So you cannot come to a situation where, you cannot really, ascribe a cost per meter basis for electric fencing, especially on 1 acre, because the basic equipment we use the smallest equipment can go up to 5-6 acres it can cover. It's a 1.4 joule unit, it's a small unit. So whether you have 5 acres or 1 acre, you have the same 4 corner posts, right? And the same 2 gate posts you have, and the components which go on are the same. It's only the linear things that changes, like the wires and the intermediate posts in between. So when you talk of a 1 acre fence, it is difficult to quantify the cost. If you ask me what's the cost of a 5 acre fence, I can say, okay, a 5 acre fence, roughly, I can put a square thing saying, if it has a standard of 10 bends per kilometer, that's assumptions. We need to have an assumption to it. So you cannot work on assumptions in a pretension fence. You need to do a site survey, make it site specific, and you have to decide, like, how many posts are coming, how many wires are coming there, what is the spacing of the posts required, because for wild animals, I told you, for wild boar and stuff, you have to have, for theft, you have to have posts kept close together. So when you talk of 1 acre, unless you know the requirement, what is 1 acre fence, what is it protecting? Is it to protect from elephants only? Well, I'll tell you 4 lines is enough to protect elephants. I'll tell you wild boar, 6 lines is enough to protect against wild boar, 1 meter height. If you look at cows and cattle, well, 2 lines is enough, up 5 feet level. So, it depends. So when you talk of 1 acre, it's very vague unless you know 1 acre of what type of fences or what animal control. But if you're looking at an average, if you're looking at average cost, let's not talk of 1 acre, let's talk of 10 acres, about a kilometer. A kilometer, the price will amortize. For example, I'll tell you, if you're looking at a 5 feet fence, it might range around, for control of wild boar, cattle, goats, sheep, these kind of things. And we can expect in the range of about 450 rupees, that plus minus per meter cost. Whereas if you go in for a 2 meter fence for high impact animals with 12 lines or 13 lines, it can go to about 600, 650, depending 700 rupees, depending on the terrain. And if you go in for elephant control, where need post protection is required because you need to electrically protect the posts. So the price could go up anywhere between 750, 800, 900, depending on the terrain. So it's site specific. We need to do a survey before we decide on what the costing is.
Okay. Usually, what should be the height of the fence?
Height of the fence, as well, like I said, it depends on what's your requirement, what you need to control. If you have large animals like deer or nilgai or bison or elephants, you definitely need a 2 meter fence, because the eye level is basically nose level, and the eye level is basically control levels. So if there's something, even psychologically, the humans, you want to jump over a wall, if you feel that the wall is less in your eye level, then you think, okay, I have the energy to jump over it. When the thing is at eye level, you think twice. When it's above eye level, definitely you rule out, say, I cannot jump that. So it's the same thing with animals. So, when you look at the height, it depends on what is the animals you want to control. Then we talk about the height.
Okay. Can you please tell us about your background? What made you take an interest in this business?
Yeah, that's quite the long shot that is. Yeah, I wouldn't say I'm a conservationist, but then I was the oldest life member of the oldest NGO in this country, which is Nilgiri Wildlife and Environmental Association, NWLEA, which has now become defunct. But this was in Ooty, and this is way back in the 70s, which I have been involved with them in my own little way. And then I think in 95, 96, I came across a lot of elephant fatalities and a lot of aggression against elephants reported in the paper. People are shooting there. They got spikes put on the ground and it's hurting the elephants. And, there's a lot of ill will between humans and elephants. And for some reason, I felt that I have to do something about it, which I can do it. And at that point in time, I was between jobs and so between my own businesses. So I said, let me give this a try. So 26 years back, there's this Swami Sachidananda school at Kallar, Nilgiris, the foothills of Nilgiris, along the railway track. And that is a challenge, 6 kilometers. And as we started the work, there was some talk of elephant corridor. Yeah, so this thing came up and the project was stalled for a while. And then there's a healthy discussion came up, say, what is a corridor? And what are we doing? Are we forming a corridor? Are we blocking a corridor? Right? If you have the animal to cross the main road and go across to the other side, then, that's not a corridor. The corridor for the animal is normally along the forest stretch, so you don't block it. So you create a line along the forest line, say, okay, that is your route. You don't block that. So that's the elephant corridor. But when it starts, cutting across in a V-shaped valley area, if an elephant goes from point A to point B right across the road, then it's not necessarily a corridor. So this is one reason why I said, okay, let us do one thing. Let's form the corridor. Put a fence where elephant respects it and follows along that line instead of breaching that line. So that is one reason that I succeeded in that project. It took me some time. And then we also had the Kalar fruit station, which is the horticulture department. That is another big challenge because for generations, elephants have been coming there with their kith and kin, looking for jackfruit and durian for 450 years. Now, suddenly the department says, control it. Yeah. So it was a challenge for me. That if it was not a challenge, I wouldn't have taken the job. But every day we would sit there and watch to see what the elephants do, observe their adaptive behavior towards electric fences, and then do a little tweaking, and then come up with some solutions, which is, yeah. So we kept going on that field and eventually came across to different situations where people wanted control for different applications. So we did some large projects for the plantation sector, particularly in the early 2000s. There was a lot of the vanilla rush was there, so everybody wanted to protect the vanilla crop. So then the focus changed, saying, yes, we need to also control humans. So then we need to go for more professional fences. So when we talk of professional fences, I'm looking at it this way. Normally, anywhere in the world, it's a do-it-yourself thing. People buy their own stuff and they do it themselves. In India, largely, they do it themselves, but it's a crude way because nobody's been trained on how to do it and stuff like that. So if there is somebody who can design the fence for you, erect it for you, maintain it for you, and give you a certain warranty against it and some life expectancy on it, that's a professional fence. If it's safety, everything put together. So that is how I got into this. Now it's about my 26th year, I said, no regrets. Till 2007, we are doing some local systems made in India. But from 2007 onwards, I'm very happy that my customers are very happy, they're safe. See, because I've seen some situations where there's been an elephant fatality and the forest department was out to arrest the owner and the manager of the establishment. Then they had to go to the High Court and they had to get a bail and stuff like that. So all this can be avoided if you go in for safety certified stuff, which takes the onus of safety away from the farmer and puts it onto the supplier. Very important. Because today, not many people will stand up and say, okay, hold me accountable. Yeah? I'm very proud to say that today we have one company who would say, hold us accountable if you can. Because we are dealing with zero fatality equipment. So that's the first thing that in my mind says, okay, I'm not taking any risk. The second thing is that, when you're building fences itself, there's small things like entrapment and stuff like that, which is a physical thing which you have to learn to avoid entanglement, entrapment, kind of stuff like that. So other than that, I think, this is a field which I enjoy doing because every day I get new challenges and the elephants are there to challenge me also. So I do that. And then slowly we moved from elephants on to controlling humans, and that's taken us to another division, security division, which is on another beat altogether. But as far as farming is concerned, this has been our bread and butter division, and this is something which has sustained us all this while and sustained so many farmers. And we don't advertise much because we go by word of mouth. There are so many farmers who, after 15, 20 years, we still give free service. So we don't necessarily expect to be paid for service. But there are some organizations who also give us some AMC, which keeps the ball rolling. Yeah, otherwise, I have no regrets about getting into this field. 26 years, and I hope that all my farmers they have no regrets at the end of the day. That's basically it.
That's very interesting and nice to hear, sir. Thank you very much. We have now completed the round of questions. On behalf of agricultureinformation.com, we like to thank Mr. George Eapen for the talk and for answering the questions in detail. I like to also thank all the participants in the meeting. This meeting will now be closed.
Thank you.
You're welcome, sir.